Okay guys, here we go. So this is welding rod, obviously, and it's a cast iron repair rod. It's high in nickel and carbon steel, and it should be pretty good for what we're doing here. I need to get the flux off this, so we're going to just use the press here to crush that off. Works pretty well. So what you're witnessing here is sort of a happy forging accident. I was making some braided Damascus, which is cool, but different story, and came across this, and it reminded me of an archaeological dig that scientists have discovered over the last few years, and it's of a Bronze Age battle that was huge. It was never recorded in history. The written word wasn't in that particular area in the Baltic Sea for about 2,000 years after it happened. So they're discovering a lot of things, but the pictures of that site reminded me so much of this. It's amazing. So anyway, I'll try to put a link in the description below of that particular archaeological dig. So what I'm doing is I welded 3 of the rods together, and I'll make a series of these braided pieces. There we go. We'll use a press to straighten everything and flatten it out. They won't be perfect, and they're not all going to be even and equal, but that lends to the pattern. Once we get these sorted, we'll heat them up and we'll flatten them somewhat to take a little bit of the three-dimensional out of them. When patterns get too three-dimensional, they tend not to show up very well in Damascus. Now we're going to make this a canister Damascus so that we can keep those spaces between these braided pieces of higher nickel steel apart. I've used this nickel rod in other Damascus with cable Damascus and worked out pretty good in the past, so I expect this to work okay. We'll see how it goes. And these things are about 14 inches long right now, so we're going to cut them in half and trim the ends off so we can get them into a reasonable sized canister. And we're going to throw a little muriatic acid on them, let them sit for a few hours, clean them up, get some of that forge scale off. There we go. And we're a piece of stainless steel canister. I always use stainless steel in my canisters. It comes off the material a whole lot easier. You don't have to mess with whiteout or anything like that. If you ever get a chance to use a piece of stainless steel tubing in your canister Damascus, I highly recommend it. It's all I use. All right, we're going to stack these things up on one side, and then we're putting a piece of solid 1084 in the middle. We'll be eventually making a knife out of this, or finding a knife maker that'll make a knife out of it. I'm not sure yet. And this is 1084 powder that we're going to fill this canister with. There we go. We'll tap it all down and get a lid welded to it. And I'm using mild steel to plug the ends. The mild steel will weld to the billet, and once I cut the stainless steel canister off, I will still have a handle on the end of the billet to deal with. All right. And we need to fix this forge. We've been burning through it a little bit lately. Been doing a lot of Damascus, so that'll be another video. All right, so squaring dies, and we're going to start compressing this. And we'll take it down, about 25% of its size before we actually start forging it out. Very nice. Floyd press is working really, really nicely, and then we'll start drawing the billet out. The canister is still on at this point, and we're keeping up at welding temperatures just to make sure we don't get any cracks or separations inside. Alrighty. It's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and cut this can off here. And I didn't put you through the misery of watching me take this entire can off here It did stick in a couple of places. It's highly unusual for stainless, but I was welding at a pretty high temperature. I wanted to make sure that those welding rods fused into that 1084 powder real well. But it came off. Wasn't too much of a task. Much easier than mild steel, that's for sure. And we're going to take this down to just about, probably just a little over 3/8 of an inch thick, because we're going to put it on the surface grinder and take the surface down on both sides so we can check this pattern. And I'm not going to worry about the edges. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to make a knife from it or if I'm going to find someone who wants to make a knife from it, but let's see how this pattern comes out and see if it's even worth it. We'll get this thing onto the surface grinder and take it down a bit. That scale off of it. Floyd did a good job of flattening it out so it would just sit right on the surface grinder magnet. I'm really glad I built this surface grinder. It saves so much time. Go through a couple of different grits of sandpaper on it, and you can do a test etch pretty quickly on your material. So if you haven't checked out that video, it's a 3-part series on how I built this surface grinder, what I built it from. There you go. Let's get it into some ferric chloride, and there we go. I'm calling it Battlefield Bone Damascus, and not sure if I'm going to make a knife out of it or find someone. If you're a knife maker out there and you'd be interested in making a knife out of this, leave a comment in the description below. We'll see what works out. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. There you go. Until next time, take care. Be safe. Bye-bye now.